You can't be serious. I stared at the lawyer, waiting for him to laugh and admit this was all some cruel joke. But he didn't. He just sat there, his tired eyes unreadable as he repeated the words that shattered my world. The Holden Golf Club, along with all its assets and properties, shall be inherited by Nathaniel Holden. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. I felt my pulse in my throat. This has to be a mistake. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. I'm afraid not. Your father's decision was final. My father's decision? Number, that didn't make sense. My father had built this golf club from nothing. He had poured his blood, sweat, and soul into it. And I had spent my entire life making sure his legacy thrived. I ran the club. I managed the staff. I knew every inch of that course like the back of my hand. Nate? My brother barely knew which end of the club to hold. And yet, here we were. My entire world handed to him like some participation trophy. Nate, sitting across from me in a designer suit he probably didn't even pay for, let out a slow whistle. Damn, didn't see that coming. I clenched my fist so hard my nails dug into my palms. Of course you didn't. He leaned back in his chair, that lazy, smug smirk plastered across his face. I mean, look, sis, I get it. But maybe it's time you loosen up a little. Do your own thing. You're always so serious about this place. I turned to my mother, hoping for, what? Support? A hint of the outrage that was threatening to consume me? But she only gave me that infuriatingly gentle look and patted my hand. Sweetheart, your father thought this was best. You're always working so hard and Nate, well, he needs a chance. A chance? My voice cracked. Mom, he's had nothing but chances, and he's wasted every single one. Nate shrugged. Yeah, but you know what they say. Third time's the charm. I wanted to scream. The lawyer cleared his throat. Additionally, to Mariana Holden, I leave a monetary gift to help her start something of her own. A lump formed in my throat. Something of my own? This was my own. This club was my life. But then Nate dropped the bombshell. Oh, by the way, he said, stretching like he had all the time in the world. I'm selling it. I went still. You're what? Selling it. He waved a dismissive hand. Got a sweet offer from some corporate guys. They want to turn it into a luxury resort or something. Honestly, I wasn't really listening. I shot out of my seat. You don't even play golf, Nate. You don't even like this place. How can you sell it? Easy, he said, grinning. Sign a few papers, cash a big check, and poof, problem solved. Problem solved, as if this was just a minor inconvenience, as if this wasn't my entire damn life. I stormed out before I could throw something at his smug face. Back at the club, I did the only thing I knew would calm me down. I grabbed my father's old golf clubs and headed to the driving range. I lined up a shot, took a deep breath, and swung hard. Crack. The club snapped in half. For a moment, I just stared at it in my hands, the pieces dangling uselessly. Then, to my absolute horror, laughter bubbled up in my chest. First a chuckle, then a full-on, borderline hysterical laugh. Because if this wasn't the perfect metaphor for everything that had just happened, I didn't know what was. I had played by the rules my whole life. Worked hard, did the right thing, trusted my family. And what did it get me? A broken legacy and a brother who was about to sell my entire world to the highest bidder. Screw that. If Nate wanted to play dirty, then I was done playing fair. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. If they think I'll just walk away, they clearly don't know me at all. The next morning, I sat in my office at the club staring at the framed photo of my father on the wall. His proud smile looked back at me, and for the first time, I felt nothing but anger. How could he do this to me? How could he leave everything to Nate, knowing I was the one who kept this place alive? A sharp knock on the door snapped me out of my thoughts. Morning, boss. It was Jenna, my longtime assistant. She looked hesitant. I thought you should see this. She handed me a folder, and as I flipped it open, my stomach twisted. Inside was a proposal from a major resort corporation, Glenmore Enterprises. They were the ones trying to buy my family's golf club. I scanned the pages. It was worse than I imagined. They weren't just planning a few renovations. They wanted to bulldoze half the course, turn the clubhouse into a luxury spa, and build high-rise condos on what used to be our driving range. My hands curled into fists. They're going to destroy everything. Jenna nodded grimly. Nate's been meeting with them all morning. I shot out of my chair. Where? The clubhouse. I stormed into the lounge area of the clubhouse, my heels clicking against the polished wooden floor. There, lounging in one of the leather chairs, was Nate, laughing with a group of men in tailored suits. A half-empty whiskey glass sat on the table beside him. He looked up as I approached, his grin widening. Well, if it isn't the ghost of Holden Golf Club. I ignored him and turned to the men. Are you Glenmore? One of them, a middle-aged man with slicked-back hair, extended a hand. James Holloway. We're very excited about the opportunity here. I didn't shake his hand. So excited you're planning to rip it apart and turn it into another soulless resort? Holloway's smile barely wavered. We see it as an opportunity to modernize. Your brother understands that progress is necessary. I turned back to Nate. You can't do this. Nate sighed dramatically. Mari, this place is outdated. Golf is for old rich guys. You really think I want to spend my life babysitting a bunch of retirees in plaid pants? This isn't just a business, Nate. It's our family's legacy. He scoffed. No, Mari. It was Dad's legacy. And now it's mine. I felt the weight of his words like a punch to the gut. My hands clenched at my sides. So that's it? You're just going to sell out? He smirked. For a lot of money? Yeah. I opened my mouth, ready to unleash hell on him, but then I heard another voice behind me. I see some things never change. I turned and my stomach did a backflip. Liam Brooks, my ex-fiancé. And as it turned out, the newest financial director of Glenmore Enterprises. The last time I had seen Liam, I had thrown an engagement ring at his chest and told him I never wanted to see him again. That had been 4 years ago. Now he stood in front of me in a perfectly tailored suit, looking every bit the corporate shark I once feared he'd become. You've got to be kidding me, I muttered. Liam gave me a slow, assessing look. Nice to see you too, Mari. I crossed my arms. Since when do you work for Glenmore? Since last year, he said easily. When they approached me about this deal, I had no idea it was your family's club. I narrowed my eyes. And now that you do? He glanced at Nate, then back at me. Business is business. I felt a fresh wave of rage. First, my father betrayed me. Then my brother. And now the man I once loved was here to help them take everything away from me. Liam must have seen the fire in my eyes because he let out a low chuckle. Still as stubborn as ever. I took a step closer. And you're still as much of a sellout as ever. His smirk didn't fade. If anything, it grew. Some things never change. That night, I sat at my favorite corner table in the clubhouse bar, nursing a glass of red wine and plotting my next move. Jenna slid into the seat across from me. So, what's the plan? I took a deep breath. First, I need to find out if there's any way to stop the sale. There has to be something legally binding that can give me a way back in. Jenna hesitated. Well, there was that rumor about a second will. My head snapped up. What second will? Apparently, your dad updated his will a year ago. Some of the older board members mentioned it, but no one's seen it. My pulse kicked up. And let me guess, it conveniently disappeared? She nodded. Just before the official reading. I leaned back in my chair, wheels spinning in my head. If there really was a second will, and if it said anything different from the one we heard, that could change everything. Jenna gave me a cautious look. If it exists, Nate definitely won't let you find it. Then I'll have to get creative. At that exact moment, a familiar, deep voice interrupted us. Plotting something, Mari? I turned and saw Liam standing beside our table, a smirk on his lips. I tilted my head. Just enjoying my drink. He raised an eyebrow. Funny, because the last time you had that look, you were planning to sabotage my biggest business deal. I gave him an innocent smile. Ah, memories. He chuckled, but his eyes stayed sharp. You're not going to make this easy, are you? Wouldn't dream of it. I needed to get close to Liam, find out what he knew about Glenmore's plans, and maybe, just maybe, about the missing will. So, naturally, I did the most logical thing possible. I accidentally spilled my entire glass of red wine down the front of his crisp white shirt. He let out a curse and jumped back. I gasped, pressing a hand to my mouth. Oh no, Liam, I'm so sorry. His jaw clenched as he grabbed a napkin. Mari, I swear, it was an accident. It wasn't. He met my gaze and I could tell. He didn't believe me for a second. But instead of getting angry, he let out a low chuckle. Well played. I lifted my glass in a mock toast. Welcome back to town. His eyes narrowed slightly, a challenge flickering there. This is going to be fun, isn't it? I smirked. You have no idea. You stole from me, Nate. Now, let's see how you like losing everything. If I couldn't win this fight in court, I'd win it another way. Nate wanted to sell the club? Fine. I'd make sure no one wanted to buy it. The first step was simple. Hit where it hurt. The members. Holden Golf Club wasn't just a course. It was a community. Our members had been coming here for years, and many of them had more loyalty to me than to my brother. If they walked away, the club's value would plummet. I called up a few of my most trusted regulars. It didn't take much convincing. Your father would be ashamed of what Nate's doing. Mr. Caldwell, one of our longest-standing members, grumbled. Count me out. One by one, the resignations started rolling in. Within a week, over a third of our elite members had withdrawn their contracts. The ripple effect was immediate. Investors started backing away. The club's reputation took a hit. And Nate? He finally started to sweat. The next phase of my plan required a little more creativity. Enter Richard Carter, journalist for the Florida Times. He owed me a favor after I once saved his career by tipping him off about a major tax scandal in the city. Now, it was time to cash in. Let me get this straight, Richard said, sipping his coffee. You want me to write a story about how your brother is ruining the club? I smiled. More like an expose on how one of Florida's most historic golf clubs is crumbling under poor management. He smirked. Oh, I like the sound of that. A few days later, the article hit. Holden Golf Club falls into chaos, a legacy on the brink. It detailed everything. The sudden departure of long-term members, the questionable business decisions, and the rumors of a corporate takeover that would destroy everything the club stood for. The best part? It had quotes from former members trashing Nate's leadership. By the end of the day, the article had gone viral in our circles. Investors were calling with concerns. The board of directors was furious. And Nate? He was absolutely losing it. I was enjoying the chaos I had created when life decided to throw me a curveball. Jenna burst into my office, eyes wide. You're not going to believe this. What now? She handed me a business card. The name printed on it made my stomach drop. Rebecca Langley, estate attorney. Rebecca, my former best friend, the one I hadn't spoken to in years, the one I had stopped trusting because of Nate. Jenna shifted uncomfortably. Apparently, she's the only lawyer who might know about the second will. I groaned. Of course she is. Rebecca and I had been inseparable once. Until she started dating Nate. Until she took his side in every argument. Until we had one final explosive fight that ended with me walking out of her life. And now, she might be the only person who could help me. Fantastic. That night, I needed a break, or at least another drink. I headed to the bar inside the clubhouse, determined to forget my problems for a few hours. Unfortunately, the universe had other plans. I spotted Nate sitting in a corner with two men in expensive suits. They were potential buyers. I just knew it. I had to hear what they were saying, which is how I found myself doing something incredibly stupid. I ducked behind the storage rack, spotting a giant golf bag propped against the wall. Desperate, I climbed inside and pulled the flap over me, hoping to stay hidden just long enough to catch some useful intel. "The situation is complicated," Nate was saying. "The club's value took a hit, but I promise it's temporary." One of the men hummed. "We need reassurances before making an offer." "I can fix it," Nate insisted. "I just need more time." The men murmured something I couldn't quite hear. I leaned forward, trying to catch the words. And that's when the bag moved. Oh, number A staff member must have assumed it was part of a shipment because suddenly I was being lifted and placed onto a cart. I bit my lip to stop myself from cursing out loud. The next thing I knew, I was being wheeled through the lobby. The cart stopped. Voices murmured nearby. "Please don't put me in the storage room. Please don't put me in the storage." A door creaked open, and I felt myself being dragged inside. Then, darkness. Silence. I was in a closet, stuffed in a golf bag, alone. And worst of all, I had no idea how the hell I was going to get out. This was, without a doubt, the dumbest thing I had ever done. You wanted to play dirty, Nate? I can play dirtier. Sitting across from Rebecca Langley felt like stepping into a time machine, one that took me straight back to the most infuriating years of my life. She hadn't changed much. Same sharp eyes, same perfectly pressed blazer, same unreadable smirk. "I was wondering when you'd show up," she said, tapping her nails against the table. "Took you long enough." I folded my arms. "You knew I'd come?" Rebecca shrugged. "I figured you'd eventually realize you needed me." I ignored the jab. "I hear you know something about a second will." Her smirk widened. "Maybe." I clenched my jaw. "Rebecca, this isn't a game. That club is my birthright. And yet, legally, it belongs to Nate," she said smoothly, leaning back in her chair. "Unless, of course, the second will surfaces." I exhaled sharply. "What do you want?" She didn't hesitate. "My cut." "Of course." "Nate screwed me over, too," she continued. "Your dad promised me a payout for handling his legal affairs, but after he died, Nate conveniently forgot to honor it. If I hand you this will, I want my share." I studied her for a long moment. Could I trust her? Absolutely not. Did I have another choice? "Also number fine," I said finally. "You get your share. Now where is it?" She reached into her bag and slid a folded document across the table. My heart pounded as I opened it. And there it was. The real will. The terms were crystal clear. Nate was only a temporary caretaker. Ownership of Holden Golf Club would default to me, if I chose to claim it. My fingers tightened around the paper. "It's notarized?" Rebecca smirked. "Of course." This was it. My way back in. But I wasn't finished with Nate just yet. Now that I had the will, it was time for phase 2 of my plan. Make the club untouchable for buyers. I called Richard Carter, my journalist contact, and fed him an exclusive leak. Holden Golf Club no longer for sale. Pending legal battle over ownership. By noon, the article was everywhere. By 3, Glenmore Enterprises had officially backed out of the deal. By 5, Nate was in full meltdown mode. "Are you out of your damn mind?" he shouted, storming into my office. "Do you know how much money I was about to make?" I leaned back in my chair, feigning innocence. "Oh, you mean the deal that was built on fraud?" He scoffed. "This club was mine to sell." "Actually?" I pulled the second will from my desk and tossed it in front of him. Turns out it never was. Nate's face drained of color as he skimmed the document. This is fake." "Nice try," I said. "It's notarized, legal. and already filed with the court. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. You're bluffing. Am I? I leaned forward. Check your email. He hesitated, then pulled out his phone. As he read, I watched the moment he saw it. The court summons for fraud and mismanagement of assets. His shoulders slumped. You sued me? I smiled sweetly. You stole from me, Nate. Consider this me returning the favor. For the first time, Nate didn't have a snarky comeback. He just stood there, staring at me as if he was realizing, too late, that I wasn't the pushover he thought I was. You can't do this, he muttered. I stood, smoothing my blazer. I already did. To celebrate my victory, I decided to send Nate a little gift. A few days later, a beautifully wrapped package arrived at his doorstep. Inside was a thick stack of official-looking documents labeled Purchase Agreement for Holden Golf Club. The moment he started flipping through, he'd see it, right at the bottom in tiny, almost imperceptible print. First rule of business. Always read the fine print, little brother. And if his reaction was anything like I imagined, well, I'd be laughing all the way to the clubhouse. Some wins feel better than money. This was one of them. The courtroom was silent as the judge flipped through the documents. My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone in the room could hear it. I had fought tooth and nail for this moment, and now it all came down to a single decision. The judge cleared his throat. Based on the evidence provided, it is clear that the most recent will is valid. As such, ownership of Holden Golf Club is hereby transferred to Mariana Holden. The words hit me like a wave. Relief, victory, justice. I barely heard the rest of the ruling. All I knew was that I had won. The club was mine. Nate, sitting at the other table, looked like he'd just swallowed a golf ball. His lawyer whispered something to him, but he barely reacted. He had lost everything. The deal, the money, the respectability he never really had in the first place. As we exited the courtroom, Nate hurried after me. Mari, wait. I turned, arms crossed. What, Nate? He ran a hand through his hair. Look, I know we've had our issues. I let out a dry laugh. Issues? You stole my inheritance, tried to sell our family's legacy, and lied to everyone. That's more than issues. He sighed. I'm just saying, maybe we can work something out. I raised an eyebrow. Work something out? I mean, you're gonna need someone to run the club, right? He said, forcing a grin. Why not keep it in the family? I stared at him for a long moment before I burst out laughing. I laughed so hard I had to wipe a tear from my eye. Oh, Nate, I said, still chuckling. You really don't get it, do you? He frowned. What? I patted his shoulder. You're fired. With Nate officially out of my life, it was time to rebuild. I didn't just want to keep the club alive. I wanted to make it better than ever. First, I launched a complete rebrand. Holden Golf Club. Golf for everyone. Gone were the days of exclusive, elitist memberships. I introduced affordable training programs for young players, community events, and even a beginner-friendly course designed to make golf accessible to everyone, not just the old money crowd Nate had catered to. It wasn't long before word spread. Membership surged. Sponsors took notice. The club was thriving in a way it never had before. And as for Nate, well. A month later, Jenna burst into my office, grinning. You're going to love this. She turned her laptop around, showing me a news article. Nathaniel Holden fired from golf club rival after spectacular mishap. I clicked on the video embedded in the article. It showed Nate at a high-end golf tournament, working as a junior course manager at one of my competitors' clubs. And just as the players were lining up for their final round, the automatic irrigation system suddenly activated, drenching everyone in sight. The clip zoomed in on Nate's panicked face as chaos erupted around him. I laughed so hard I nearly fell out of my chair. Oh, that's beautiful. Jenna smirked. Karma has excellent aim. That night, after closing up the club, I found an envelope waiting for me on my desk. The handwriting was unmistakable. My grandfather's. With trembling hands, I opened it and unfolded the letter. Marie, if you're reading this, then things probably didn't go the way I'd hoped. But knowing you, I'm sure you handled it just fine. I always knew you were the right one to take over. You've got the drive, the heart, and the stubbornness of every Holden who came before you. But if there's one thing I hope you remember, it's this. Running a club isn't just about business. It's about people. Keep them at the heart of everything you do, and you'll never go wrong. And if you ever find yourself in a fight, well, at least have fun putting someone in their place. Proud of you, kid. Granddad. I pressed the letter to my chest, swallowing the lump in my throat. I had won back the club. But more than that, I had honored his legacy, and that was the greatest victory of all. What do you think? Have you ever had something stolen from you? An opportunity, a legacy, or even just respect? Share your story in the comments. And if you enjoyed this tale of revenge and justice, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new story.